We're the two behind MYempower, which last year was about gender bias, and this year is more just about empowering women in general. All of this is a part of a DECA project for us, but we're both just really passionate about it anyway, so we always go all out. It is our senior year, so it's kind of like our last year to do everything, but we're super excited to have this discussion. We have some questions ready to go, and I think Yasmin is going to start with it.
Yes. So the very first question I have is, what factors do you think help your confidence and what factors hurt it?
Okay. I would say for me, it's like academic wise, like classes, like positive feedback on like essays or just like in class, like from teachers, definitely academic validation. And then also for me, like soccer, playing sports, like it's definitely a big factor too. Like knowing that like I've worked hard for this and then like it pays off, you know, and win like tournaments or take up or that kind of stuff are definitely two big things. Yeah, I'm talking about, okay. That's what I got.
Confidence, like, it's just something that like we get from validation from others, like in any form, not just academic wise. Like when it, like based on our outfits, like if somebody tells me that I have a cute outfit, like, oh, confidence boost right there, like I'm gonna have a good day. Like I feel like that's just how confidence works.
So then does everyone agree that confidence comes from what those around you say, or does it come from, like internal? Like, do you think you can empower yourself?
Yeah, mine is definitely a whole mental thing. So like if I have high confidence or low confidence, I'm always thinking about like what other people are thinking about me. And it's not necessarily what I'm doing or how I look in a way. It's what I'm thinking of how others perceive me. So I can make myself have a high confidence day of like, oh, I don't care about what they think of what I'm doing or how I look today. And that'll definitely be more of a, oh, I got today. But if it's all in my head, then I might have a bad confidence day.
And we do have a comment that says, confidence for me is when I am prepared for what I'm about to do. Planning makes me confident, which I honestly kind of agree with. I'm definitely like an organizer and don't really like to get thrown into things. But
Would you say that the same thing would hurt your confidence though? Like when it comes to like people and just your surroundings? So like, how do you balance that?
I would say that I feel like a lot of us can agree that like one comment from somebody else can like obviously hurt your confidence, but I feel like the main detriment of like onto my confidence is the stuff that I say about myself because I feel like that lingers longest. So like I don't know, I can usually move on if someone says something because I'm like, oh, what do they know? But it's when like you're saying it to yourself all the time that really like that sticks.
Yeah, I feel like to go along with that, I feel like what we think and perceive about ourselves hurts our confidence more than maybe outside factors, or at least for me personally. So I feel like that is, we kind of hurt our own confidence in a way. So I guess maybe that's how I would look at it, is like we are our biggest like judgmental people in our life because we judge ourselves a lot more than other people tend to judge us, if that makes sense. So I feel like we hurt our confidence a lot more than maybe we think.
I feel like it's hard because we do hurt our confidence like so much more than outside factors and outside people, but we're also looking to like other people constantly to validate us and make us feel more confident. So I feel like in a lot of cases, we're kind of starting that cycle ourselves and making us feel bad about ourselves, but we don't look to ourselves again to also help fix the problem. So like, and obviously I'm not blaming anyone for that, but it's so hard to deal with because if we're so hard on ourselves, we should also be able to like look inside ourselves to feel better, but it's so much easier said than done.
I feel like we have like a lot of us tend to like set expectations, and like when we don't meet them, then it kind of hurts our confidence because like we expect something better. But yeah, but also expectations are good because we can meet them and stuff. But I feel like a lot of us, we like set expectations and just don't meet them, and yeah.
I feel like sometimes those expectations can be like from society too, just like what society norms are and stuff like that. And I feel like we look for validation from others to like make our confidence better when like kind of Rowan was saying and Abby was saying like we need to like internalize that and like find the confidence within ourselves rather than like looking outward for it as much. But like back to what I was saying, like the judgment being there like of ourselves kind of gets in the way of that too. So
I've noticed that like especially in high school where we're also like close knit all the time and like seeing people our age doing stuff that we do all the time, like it's so hard to like not assume that everybody's got it together. Like that's something I personally struggle with because I'm like, oh, everyone seems like they've got, you know, a perfect to-do list and then on top of everything. But then I think everybody feels that way, but it's so hard to like get into that perspective instead of like the judging yourself for not being like everybody else.
And social media kind of like just only puts out the best part of people's lives. And so that's like the only part we see. So then we're like, if we see something on there and we're like, oh, my life is just not as good or whatever, like they have all this, then it's kind of like our confidence is kind of like, well, I'm not like as good as them. I don't have that life. So
I think a big part of confidence when it comes to high school girls, especially, is it kind of gets demolished when we compare each other. Whereas if we're like building up each other and hyping each other up, then you're kind of like go them, but then like you're also thinking I'm strong, I'm smart, I can also do my best in a way, which I think is kind of a better way to look at it than comparing.
Do you guys think that the expectation that society puts on women is too high? Do you believe that? And like, what are those expectations and how does that like affect your confidence?
Personally, for me, one thing that I've always struggled with is like beauty standards. I feel like that's a big thing for like all of us too. And I think that like society's expectations are literally just like unrealistic. Like I've had the worst struggle with acne for all 4 years of high school. And it's so hard to like go to school and like watch people like around me have like perfect clear skin. And then like I always like wondered like why is like everyone like and like they post on like all the posts on social media, like everyone has like perfect skin and stuff, and then like I would always wonder why I wasn't like meeting the standard and stuff. But like I don't know, like we're all just different and perfect in our own ways, so I feel like again like eternalizing that confidence, you know.
I've noticed that like society standards for women are very like contradictory in both ways. Like let's say you're like on the skinnier side, oh well then you're too skinny, you know, or if you have extra weight, oh you're too fat, or you know your hair's too long or too short. Like they want you to be perfect and that's like actually impossible, like no matter what you do. So that sucks.
Say the way I look at it is like, as women, we're expected to, you know, like do good in school and do good academically. But then if we're doing like too good in those kind of things, well, like you're a woman, so you're not allowed to like be the best in that sort of sense. So like you need to go and like, I don't know, work with kids or do something like that, or like, you know, be ready to just be a stay-at-home mom and those kind of things. I feel like we're like pressured by society in a way to like be good at certain things, but then like not so good at other things. Like you need to like have that balance in between. So yeah.
You're supposed to be mediocre, but also exceptional.
Exactly.
And a huge problem with that is like women are told from such a young age that, you know, we mature faster than boys. Like we need to always be showing like that we're more mature and that we're more intelligent and that we have to excel so much more than men just to show that we're on the same level. And that's not fair because there should be no competition of who is better. Like we're all just people. It shouldn't matter what gender or sexual orientation or race we are. Like, but we're told that because we're women, you need to work harder to be at the same level. And then we're still not given the credit we deserve.
I also feel like this balance of expectations of too much or too little really feeds into the insecurities that we're always analyzing ourselves and comparing those around us, which affects the confidence because instead of building up our confidence and being like, oh my gosh, you are so pretty or you are so smart, we're like, oh, I'm too smart or I'm too confident, I'm going to look bossy, or I'm not confident enough, I'm going to look like an attention seeker, which I think is a big problem for women in society today.
Kind of going off of what Rowan said, it like reminded me of kind of what I've heard growing up my entire life is that like it is like a biological thing that women mature faster than men, like mentally, physically, all of that. But then when boys in our school or just in our society act out, do something out of standard, they're like, oh, well, you know, they'll get there. You know, you're there before them. But like, that's so awful because you're expected to just be the bigger person all the time, at least when relating to men. And that just, it sets this like standard of like women should be here, men should be here, but they'll get away with whatever. And it's just so toxic.
And going off with that, like what's Ali is saying, like if they act out or something, it's no big deal. But if we use our voices and we speak out about how it's unfair and unjustified that they get that special treatment, we're told that we're crazy and that we're being too loud. And it's unfair because if we're supposed to be the bigger person all the time, we're never going to have our voices heard. So you can be the bigger person and also speak out against what like you don't believe in, but we're told that those two don't go together.
Okay, so our next question for the discussion is, do you feel like your school or the community around you does a good job empowering you as a woman?
For me, I'm a freshman at KU, but there are so many different programs here that a lot of people don't know about. But like we have the Emily Taylor, like women and gender equity, and I know I've taken self-defense classes there for free, and there are a bunch of different programs like Her Campus and Period, where people are allowed to just like gather together and empower women specifically and be able to provide for our community. Like Period will collect Period products. So that's awesome, except for the campus itself, it doesn't really feel like a safe place. Like our chancellor and stuff will just say a bunch of things for publicity of the fact of it, but not actually genuinely care about it. And I know like at one of our basketball games, big Bill Self, he said something about like, oh, are you gonna let her beat you because like she's a girl? I was like, are you really putting that as the face of like, KU basketball? Like you should know better. So that's terrible. So it kind of feels off and on like a publicity stunt. But there are definitely a lot of programs specifically that women make to empower you.
I know that at Olathe South that there are like we have our new like women empowerment club, and there are certain teachers that you can go to who are safe and like can be like a safe space. But all in all, I know that there's a lot of teachers who disagree with that and act very differently towards men and women. And it just like while there may be those safe spaces, it's not an all-encompassing like safe space that I feel like in our school or feel with the community that Olathe South has created.
I feel like at Olathe, oh, Tracy, you go. Okay. I feel like at Olathe South, or I mean, honestly, it could be all the schools in Olathe. It is more of like a chore rather than something that we should work towards together. So because of like that, I guess, aura, it just doesn't get to where it should be.
I was just gonna say that, like, going off what Mara had said, and you too, Yasmin, like, I feel like at Olathe South, the things that they do to empower women cancel out with all like the people and like the teachers that don't agree with it. Like, I'll just say, like, an example, like, oh my God, that man makes me so uncomfortable, you guys. And like, like all these freaking teachers, like, none of them, like, they just don't make it feel like it's a safe place for women's empowerment.
I do not know how he's a teacher.
There are so many, like going off of that, there are so many teachers at Olathe South who go out of their way to make women uncomfortable. Like my friend and I have personal experience in one of our classes freshman year where a teacher told me that he would throw magic balls at me any day. Like South is not a safe space for women. You can work really hard and try to find those safe spaces, but we shouldn't have to work with it. It should just automatically be safe. But like teachers are actively saying that to 15-year-old girls, and that's not acceptable.
Off of all of this, like, how do you guys think that administrators at South or at KU or whatever, what can they do to make it actually feel like a safer place for women instead of just like a publicity stunt?
I would say that although Mr. has not done anything specifically against women that I can recall in like his one or two, but seeing how he's handled a lot of controversial situations at our school, I would not be surprised if like someone came to him with an issue and he was like, oh, we'll get on that for sure, and then nothing comes of it. Like, I feel if our admin really wanted to make a mark or an impression that they cared, they would shout it from the rooftops all over the school, and then there would be actual stories of students being like, yes, they helped me, but there isn't. So
I go to Olathe North, and I feel like our administration specifically does a good job to ensure that people feel like safe and supported. And I think it's like not just like gender, but like race equality. And every time something happens, they make sure that like it's known about it and emails are sent about it. And also there's like a lot of clubs supporting it. And I feel like a lot of teachers and our faculty are supportive and push us to like join clubs, feel empowered, do whatever makes us feel comfortable in the school. So yeah.
It really just goes back to like everyone has to believe in it for it to work, which is
And
so
it-
difficult.
Like all of our like administration and teachers, just like what, like going back, like they treat women's empowerment and like social issues like it's a chore, like something that they have to address, like it's not something that they want to. And so like because of that, I feel like it makes it so much harder for like us students at South to like feel okay and like comfortable and like believing in the things that we do.
Trigger warning, sexual assault. I know how KU handles it. So like at the beginning of the year, we had a bunch of people come out against certain fraternity houses of sexual assault. And there was a one specific incident where the chancellor had to send an email to the whole student body, all the faculty, because we were having protests outside of a certain frat. And they do this thing that they've been doing for years at KU, where they send out an email and they say that security's on it, and then they wait till it all dies down and they do nothing and it gets swept under the rug. So it really sucks that they do that. And then I guess our Title 9 or whatever, who was in charge, they didn't let us know that we had no team working for them. So you're supposed to have at least like 4 members and a president, and they got a whole new staff and didn't tell anyone. So they're very sketchy and secretive about women's issues here, and it just makes for a super unsafe campus, which is terrible. So I know that's how they handle it. However, I will say that there are a bunch of posters around for like the Emily Taylor Center, where they post in the dorms, and there are outreaches for if you are sexually assaulted or if you have any issues with that. But it is scary being there sometimes.
Yeah, that is definitely a scary
No.
situation.
Oh, sorry. For anyone who doesn't know, Title IX is kind of like this thing that makes sure any school that receives funding from the government gives money to both women and men's sports.
Genuinely really enjoyed, you know, JV girls, varsity girls, and varsity boys. But it was just so sad because I like varsity girls, like they did so good and they beat East, but there was nobody there and like no East fans whatsoever. And oh, it was just really like the difference was just shocking.
And as someone who goes to a lot of the girls' varsity games, the East and North game are the most people that I've ever seen them have. So if you look at that and say like, oh, there's not a ton of people, like if you go to one of their like normally scheduled games, they do not have anyone. And a lot of the times the people that they do get in the audience are people just trying to find good spots for the guys' game. And sorry if you can hear my sister in the back, but they're trying to get a good spot for the guys' game and they don't like engage with it. They don't cheer, they don't stand up. Like they have the alma mater at the end, which is really nice. I'm glad they added that part this year. But I would really love to see more people going to the girls' game for the girls' game and actually cheering and getting involved in it.
So I'm in Falcon Flight Crew, and that's like a big thing this year. It's like the attendance gap in girls and boys games, and the fact that like all of them will get there early, and then they won't cheer. Like our sponsor, Miss Schmidt, she has to like we have these like talks at the beginning of every week because they'll go to the girls' games just to get there early, but they won't cheer, and it's like extremely disrespectful to our girls players for like us to have a student section and not be cheering for them. Like it doesn't make sense.
I'm not in flight crew at North, but in the past years, like we've had to deal with it. But this year they've been trying to be like more inclusive. Like I remember for one of the football games, they asked the crowd to stay for the band performance because it was at the end and no one left. And I think it was really surprising because I feel like for a lot of other schools, people would have just left because you obviously came there for the football game. But I think at our school, we're really trying to make everyone feel like it matters. And we advertise like all the big and little things, like people go to the band performances and their competition and tennis games and things like that. So I think it's something better that we're getting at.
I feel like it's almost small steps forward and then big steps back kind of a situation. I go to like the East and I can only speak from like my perspective as a woman, and I'm on what's called an activity. I'm on dance team, and we definitely just like aren't really given any opportunities, and we have to fight for a lot. So I won't go on and on about all like the different things, but there's just even something as simple as like getting our trophy case switched out. Like I have to do that myself. Like I have to go and like communicate with multiple people to try and get things done. And just like something as simple as that, like I've been there for 4 years. I've been on the dance team for 4 years, and my picture is not on the wall. Like I don't have a picture on the wall, and they put one up every year until my freshman year, and I don't have one on the wall because they just stopped doing it. And I don't know if that's changed in our administration when we got a new administrator who's in charge of like all the sports and activities, and he just hasn't chosen to do that. I'm not exactly sure where that lies, but there's definitely a difference in whatever sport it is, whether it's basketball or an activity, or even just a club. They can, give us a class at like women's studies, and they can give us a women empowerment club, but you can definitely tell that there's still like that inequality there between men and women's sports and activities at high school for sure.
And Yasmin lost connection, so I'm not entirely sure when she's gonna be back. But anyway, I do want to switch to more like solutions, because I think we've obviously concluded that there are a lot of problems throughout high schools and colleges. One idea that popped into my head is maybe talking to like Adelaide the South, at least, Falcon Flight Crew, about making some kind of announcement at like maybe the next PEP assembly or something about joining the Women Empowerment Club, or having like a fun activity that involves women empowerment in some way. That's just the first thing that popped into my head. And I know this upcoming week, actually, Yasmin and I are focusing on women in sports. So we'll be kind of spotlighting like the South and some other athletes, which I'm excited for. But yeah, that's the one solution that popped into my head. And I don't know if anyone has anything off the top of their head.
Okay, I'm not in flight crew or anything, but I think like one way to engage students who even are there for like getting a good spot for like the guys basketball game, just to like make it kind of like fun, we could start like chants or like let's go Falcons, because I feel like we kind of just like sit there, I guess, but if we were to like start doing chants, then people might like get more engaged and like actually, I don't know, yeah.
I think that Yasmin and Maggie should they need to have like a Falcon Flight Crew. What do I call it? Like a intervention almost, in a way, where you just gotta lay the hammer down, girl. You just gotta lay the hammer down, because I guarantee you, Miss Schmidt is like, she's like, she will like do this stuff. She just like hearing it from like other students who also experience like will help too, because like she only hears it from like us, like the Falcon Flight Crew students. So like hearing it from an outside factor, I feel like will also help her like see, okay, it's not just like them noticing.
What hour is that?
6 hour.
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else's school has been doing like during like advisory or whatever they called it your school, but during that time before, is it fourth hour? It's before fourth hour. We do like there are certain lessons every once in a while. So like we've done a diversity lesson, we do mental health lessons every once in a while. It would be nice to like have a women's empowerment one, or like some sort of something about that, whether it's like promoting the club that maybe you have at your school, or even just like the class women's studies and encouraging people to take a class like that. I think that could be a good idea, because I think, let's use that time wisely. Like we have that time where everybody is all in the same sort of class in a way. So if we're doing these lessons on other important issues, then maybe we can factor that into that as well.
I would say, going off of what Katie said, I really agree. And I think that like the discussion we're having like right now would be kind of like copy paste this into our advisory lesson, because one of the most recent lessons we had at South, because South is going downhill, we had a what's wrong with South, like what can we do to fix it, why is morale so low, and we had like an hour-long discussion, and at least in my advisory. And so I can picture something similar happening in maybe a third of the advisories of teachers that actually want to have that discussion. But I think talking is, the biggest tool that we have. And so I would like to see that utilized in advisory.
I don't know if this is my place because I don't go to South anymore, but I remember during my freshman year, we had during like suicide prevention week that someone, I don't like if they were part of some club, came around to every single advisory, and they sat down with you and they actually talked to you, and you had to fill out different forms and like pledge that you would not take your life. And they were actually there to talk to you, which I think would be very useful, because sometimes when I don't know if you guys still do it this way, but teachers just play the video and no one pays attention during advisory or anything like that. So kind of having that one-on-one talk would be really helpful.
Another thing that could be super helpful for like women and anyone struggling with, anything. We have like our school counselors and our school social workers and psychologists, and like they are so helpful. And I feel like I didn't even know they existed until the beginning of my sophomore year because either I wasn't paying attention or I just didn't know. And like no one actively told me like there is help for you here besides just saying you can get help if you need it. Like they didn't like give us any doorway into how. And like if more people knew that resource was available, more people, like for example, Miss DeCellis, I went and talked to her when I was struggling with like grief after losing my dad, and she was so helpful, so fantastic. And I mean, you can talk to them about, any of the problems you're dealing with, even, women inequality issues. And another way to get this club like more promoted, we could always ask like Falcon Films if they would put something in there. I don't know if we've already done that, but I know people don't always watch Falcon Films, but it's pretty funny. So hopefully people would pay attention enough that we could get something in there. But yeah, definitely promoting this club because this is fantastic and a fantastic opportunity for women like everywhere, all schools. And like the more we band together, the more change is going to happen.
I totally agree with what Rowan said. I think Falcon Films is a really good way to promote things with our school because everyone watches the Falcon Films, I feel like. And two, like they don't ever like promote anything like women specific. Like it's always just about sports, So I feel like it'd be a good idea to bring it up to Mr. Schwartz at least and see what he thinks.
I almost wish that the bar stools would talk a little bit more about women's sports. I know they're kind of more for like talking trash. Because I've seen like administrators and like our student section Twitter or whatever talk about girls sports because I feel like they kind of are pushed to. Again, it kind of feels like that chore. But having like Barstool is something that students actually pay attention to. So almost like bringing that into women's sports, even if they like talk trash about each other, I mean, in a respectful way, of course, but like I almost wish they would also talk about women's sports to kind of get the word out there.
Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna jump back to something Rowan said a little bit ago about going like our social worker and like our counselor. I think that we really should like Elevate the South, like set up a way to set up a meeting with them because trying to set up, I know a meeting with our counselors is so difficult for no reason. And it's so hard to like reach out and it just takes a lot of time and a lot of effort somehow to just like get in contact with your counselor. So I think if we made maybe like a Google form or like a just like a type of way where your counselor, like you can try and set up something and what you want to talk about and why, then they can get you the pass to go there would be very helpful for everyone. And people would probably be more likely if it was more accessible.
I know that is possible. When I was at South, I was a member of student council and I was like part of the mental health committee, and we were able to talk to like, I know for sure the social workers, and then get their advice about how to do student outreach and more and get involved within classes in that way. So I think that they are very willing because they want it too. They want you guys to be making that change.
I mean, one of our other questions was like, what do you think we, like Yasmin and I as a campaign, can do to empower women, whether it's at South or the local high schools, even middle schools. If there was some like certain activity we tried to put on, if anyone has like ideas of what would make you feel empowered and what would you want to go do. Yeah, is there any kind of like event or activity? I think something else that popped into my head was like kind of advisory. Sometimes we have those presentations and not only doing it at South, but maybe some of just all the high schools or even just some middle schools would be a cool idea. Hi, Yasmin, glad you're back.
I can't really like think of like an idea like off the top of my head, but I will give you feedback. Like the stuff that you guys did in the bathrooms was like literally made my heart melt. Like literally was so amazing to like go in there and like see that stuff on like the mirrors and stuff. Like it was like a confidence boost for me to like see all that. And I don't know, like something like cool like that again, I guess.
I think kind of like a organizational type thing is like, I know people can find them annoying, but like a movie night where like you watch like a woman empowerment movie and then you talk about it. Like an example, like Hidden Figures is a really good movie that has women empowerment, but it brings in a lot of other things as well, where I think you could have like a really good conversation about it and then like learn more, and then other people can like, you could do like arts and crafts and make like fun like posters to put up in the school or like around town and do stuff like that.
Back to Mara's idea for a movie night. About a month ago, like the Olathe South like theater thespian group, we did a movie night in the Black Box Theater, and it was so much fun. Like we had like the big screen, everything, and like popcorn, and we could do that in the auditorium or Black Box. Most likely Black Box, because if we had food, it would be easier to clean up. But we could I could ask Mr. Hastings to help us out with like setting things up and getting the projector all ready, and like we could actually make that happen because it's a huge space, and like we could all go there, and I could like. But yeah, like that's definitely something we could make happen for very low cost if we did it in the Black Box instead of like renting a movie theater.
Yeah, no, I know Yasmin and I have actually looked into like a movie night because we were thinking of renting a movie theater, which was way out of our budget, but I totally like think the auditorium would be a really cool event, especially if we opened it up to all high schools and we're like, hey, anyone who's welcome. And I like the idea of having a discussion afterwards because that kind of adds more meaning to it.
And also, I was just gonna say, anytime you need anything for promotion, go to the Falcon Biker Room, and you guys can always use the posters and stuff for your like promotion needs. It's free range.
I was just gonna say, like, going along with like the movie night idea, I think like a book club would be really fun, like reading a book and then like talking about it after. And now we can get like a lot more people involved too. Like if they can't make the movie night, like everyone can read the book and you have like a timeline, and then there can be like a meeting and discussion about it.
If you wanted to ever do some sort of arts and crafts thing, you could do like a zine making little day. So, zines, like everyone could bring in whatever kind of arts and crafts things they want, and then like just have leeway to make whatever kind of message they want to spread.
Zines are a really good thing that can be placed in middle school bathrooms too. We did that in women's studies, so good idea.
No, and I actually kind of want to, this is a little off topic, but I really want to ask about the women's studies class because I wasn't I didn't have enough credits to take it. So do you feel like that class like has meaning in it and everyone in there is passionate about it and you have actual discussions, or do you feel like it's more of a joke and kind of like a chore that you again check off the list?
So for me, I think that because it's Miss Whitehouse who teaches it, and I think that like if it was literally anybody else, it would probably be taken as a joke. But Miss Whitehouse does a really good job of teaching it, and I honestly feel like it's a class that literally every single boy at Olathe, like in the Olathe school district, needs to take, because like it's not like it's not political, like it's not all like this whole like liberal like class, like it's not like you're still allowed to believe like whatever you want to believe politically, but it's just like we can like all agree that women have been oppressed for so long, it's time to like lift them up. Like I think that the classes, it taught me a lot, and I think it can also teach other people a lot too.
So I'm almost thinking, well, I love the movie night idea because I kind of want to do that and maybe open it to middle schoolers as well. Just kind of start empowering them. But if Yasmin maybe can hear me, I think it'd be really cool. She looks so confused. I think it would be really cool to almost like go do mini presentations during like I know at CT we called it like Bulldog time. I'm not sure if they still have all that stuff. But teach them about, okay, Mara says they do, cool. But teach them about like at South, we have the Women Empowerment Club. We have this women's studies class we can take, and just kind of show them that like, this is a problem and it still is a problem, but you can empower yourself and empower those around you to make it better, to almost, I guess, get them started young. I don't know if Yasmin's down for that, but that could be something we look into for sure.
I know coming up, because I have a brother in 8th grade, the day where I think it's CT, IT, and FT all come to South as 8th graders, and they have that. I don't know if they still do it the same way that we did it when we were in 8th grade, but they have like a presentation in the auditorium talking about like clubs and sports. And I think that something that they could do, 2 easy things, is if the presentation doesn't include women's sports, fix that. And then also include in like the clubs. I don't know, you guys aren't considered a club, but you are an organization at South. Maybe get that out there, like include like your Instagram, or just talk about what you guys stand for in that presentation, along with all the other clubs, just to get them introduced young. But definitely the women's sports needs to be included because I don't think I remember seeing much of anything in that presentation, just like football.
Yeah, to go along with that, it's almost like if you're available, if somebody from a sport or a team, whether it's female or male, is available to do that, that's like who gets to do it, if that makes sense. And I understand that people are busy and like not everybody can make that happen. But if somebody isn't there, like actually present, like it still needs to be talked about. It's just the lack of like communicating about it that is like the issue. Like, okay, they can't be here, but like it's still important in the same sense.
And going back to what Ali was saying about like being an eighth grader and coming and getting to see all the clubs and like that club fair sort of thing, like, and but like to the outreach, like to the middle schools, if in like seventh and eighth grade, when I was at like peak insecurity, if I had been told that a group of like strong, empowered high school women were like wanting to make me feel better about myself and were like going to work to provide a better future for me, like I would have been so much more motivated to, you know, continue to smash the patriarchy and stuff like that. Like it is so important that we do get them started young, like Ali said, because, you know, that age is when, you know, society like is molding them to believe they aren't enough and they need to be told by people like us and people, you know, who are going to be them soon in the future, like that it's going to be okay and that you are worth everything. And just, yeah, that outreach is really important.
That's another thing, like with this, I guess this issue, people are always like, well, you've gotten enough, like, you know, we've already reached a certain point, you know, that's enough. It's not a problem anymore. You can deal with it. So like, I guess changing that mindset and making everyone know that this is still a problem and there are still issues that we need to solve and it's not over is really important. And I think that's like the first step. It's just realization.
Not to change topics, but if Maggie and Yasmin, if you guys are actually interested in like reaching out to middle schools and like getting like whether you're going or getting a presentation there of some sort or anything, I'm in the future ed program and we have really great communication with all the middle schools specifically. So if you need communication, if you need like other people to go and give that presentation for you, because I know there's only 2 of you and there's a lot of middle schools, not that, you know, we're going to reach all of them, but like at least the ones in the area, there's plenty of people in the academy and the program that would love to help, I'm sure. So I can definitely reach that for you too if you want that.
No, I love that idea. And I definitely think I could do something at CT just because that's where I went and I'm friends with Jenna Wiley, who her dad is the principal there. But I love the idea of reaching out to middle schoolers, whether we do a presentation or write on their mirrors like we did at South. I'm totally down for all of that. And I don't know if Yasmin has any more to add to that.
We have a 4th week.
I know that Rowan and I both live very, very close to IT, specifically me, and I know that we still have connections there. So Rowan and I can probably, I mean, sorry to speak for Rowan, but I'm pretty sure she would agree we can help out there.
Yeah, I can help with Frontier Trail if needed.
I'm writing this down. I hope you all know we're doing this.
Abby's on board. No, I think I don't know who is and is not in like the Olathe South Empowerment Club here, but I definitely think that's maybe something we could talk there. So then it's not just something that Yasmin and I are in charge of, because I want it to be more of a group effort than us like leading it, if that makes any sense. But no, I'd be totally down to talk to some principals and get that kind of rolling at the middle schools. Goodness gracious. But yeah, we'll have to start brainstorming for that. But if you guys have any like more ideas of activities we should do or put on or anything in general, you guys can always reach out to us through any of our social medias that hopefully you're following. Shameless plug right there at MYempower on Instagram. But unless Yasmin has any more discussion questions to add. No? Okay. Well, then I appreciate all of you guys taking time out of your day to come talk to us. I love some of the ideas and things that were said, and Yasmin's showing hearts, of course. What else should she do? But we appreciate you guys coming out and talking to us. We're definitely excited about some of the ideas that were talked about, and we will definitely be looking into it and spreading the word as soon as we get started with it. But yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming out. And if Yasmin has anything to add.
Get ready for the next 3 weeks. It's gonna be fun. We got lots prepped. Yep. That's all. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at MYempower. Twitter is my_empower. And then we have a YouTube. Make sure you're join our newsletter. Just go to our Instagram. Everything's there. Follow it all. Join the newsletter, please.
Yasmin does spend a lot of time on the newsletter, and I will say it looks
Hours.
phenomenal.
Join it.
Normally those are for like teachers and adults, multiple different target audiences, but they do look phenomenal if I do say so myself.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you guys all for coming. We might have another discussion with guys and girls if we decide to do so.
Yeah, or some kind of activity. We'll see.
Like movie night.
Mm-hmm.
But we're excited that you guys all came, and yeah, I think that's about it. So
thank you all.